Welcome to the American Prepping Academy. I'm JJ Johnson, and today we're going to talk about family communication plans. With all the things that are going on in the world today with the COVID and the riots and all that kind of stuff, it's not outside of the realm of possibility that you could be separated from your family. And this could also, all this stuff could also be utilized during natural disasters, tornadoes, weather events, evacuations because of chemical spills. There's just, lots of reasons why this kind of information could be important to you. So we've got about 12 slides today. We're going to try to go through them fairly quickly. If you guys have any questions, be sure to make sure to ask them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. So with that, what we're going to take a look at here is the importance of children memorizing critical data, a DURESS word, rally points, some communication alternatives, family data book, and the contact schedule, and then also GPS tracking. So first thing on here is children memorizing critical data. This is a really simple one, but it's really important to have your children begin to learn your full name, your home number, or cell phone number, probably more appropriately cell phone number, and your home address as soon as possible. You want to start training them as early as possible. As soon as they can start forming complete sentences, they need to start learning this information. That way, if they're ever separated from you, they can report that to whoever it is they come in contact with. You can make a game or a song out of it, help them remember, something along those lines. And, bottom line is you guys need to make sure that you also remember all this information as well. A lot of people, surprisingly enough, don't remember their spouse's cell phone numbers. They just have it programmed into their phone. So if you don't have some of that personal information memorized, you should actually think about doing this yourself as well. Okay, the next thing is family duress word. So a duress word is a pre-established word that a family picks that can be used either in person or over the phone or over email that indicates that the sender or speaker is being held against their will, or they're being forced to do what they're doing against their will and they're in danger. So it's like a sneaky way to let somebody know that you're having issues and you need help. The word should be something innocuous that can be thrown onto the end of pretty much any sentence or phrase. For example, if your daughter called and said, "Hey Dad, I just wanted to let you know I'm going to take a trip to Mexico with a friend for a couple of weeks. Love you, and give Fido kisses for me." Fido, this is like a human trafficking type scenario, right, for an older daughter. Fido would be the distress word, and Fido might be a dog that maybe died several years ago, one that the family was especially fond of or something like that. And so you use, him as a way to convey distress, because it's a word that nobody would forget in the family. Then you would know that she's being forced to take this trip to Mexico, and you could alert the authorities for her so that she doesn't get taken against her will. So anytime a family member uses Fido in a sentence, you would know that they're in trouble. It's important that you respond normally without letting anyone know that you have picked up on the distress word, so that the criminal doesn't know that you are alerting the authorities. Basically, you don't want to freak out right then and there, and say a bunch of inflammatory things or whatever, because that's going to let whoever it is that's forcing her know what's going on, and then they could change their plans or something. You can have a response duress word if you want, where, if you say something about Fido, then the other person says something about Grandpa Joe or whatever, some other word. That's not necessarily necessary, but you can do that if you want. Okay, so the next thing is rally points. Rally point is a pre-established location that's known to all family members, where family members would be able to meet in an emergency should they be accidentally separated. So you want to designate 3 specific local locations and 1 generic location as a rally point. The first location should be a location inside your home in case of a tornado or major storm, or even drive-by shootings or something along those lines. The second location should be close to the home, but far enough away to be safe if the home is on fire. So maybe this would be like across the street, at your mailbox, or in a neighbor's house a couple doors down, but you should be somewhere within sight of the home. The third location should be within about half a mile or so from the house in case of a large gas leak or a chemical spill, a localized evacuation, something along those lines. The location should be upwind from the prevailing wind direction, and this could be a police station, a 24-hour gas station, a post office, friend's house, whatever makes sense for your area. It also could be a place with a payphone or free Wi-Fi that can be accessed by the public. It's also beneficial if there's some place to get out of the weather as well. So you kind of want to look for something with those characteristics. And the payphone, obviously, so they can make a phone call if they don't have a cell phone. There are still a few out there. And also Wi-Fi, same thing. They can hop on your phone. Even during a disaster, if the cell phone networks are down, the Wi-Fi might work better. All right, and let's see. The last one is a generic location. So this would be like a post office, a Walmart, a Lowe's, a police station, essentially any place that could be found in any city or country if you were separated while away from home or during a wider area evacuation. And so, the idea isn't that you pick a specific one, it's just a generic description. So that way, if you're in another state on a family vacation and you get separated, you know that your family member is going to go to the post office, and then you can go to the post office and see if they show up. You don't even have to establish that in any way, or even if it's in the local area but it's outside the normal area that you have kind of set up, your neighborhood and that kind of thing, then you'll know where to look, and it cuts down the number of places that you have to go to look to try to find a family member. So. All right, next one is some communication alternatives. Kind of briefly mentioned this a second ago. During times of emergency, cell phone towers are often overwhelmed and become non-functional. Texting can often be more reliable because it's basically a short data burst and can sometimes get through when a call can't. Make sure to dim your cell phone screens, turn off your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi if you're not using them to save the battery. Also, have a battery backup and charging cable as well. All right, so Wi-Fi signals, an email or a VoIP app or a video call with FaceTime or Skype may also be more reliable if you can get that Wi-Fi signal, not your cell phone provider data signal. Again, that's not going to be as reliable, but if you can get a land-based Wi-Fi signal, that might be a little bit better. All right, so then handheld GMRS or FRS or CB radios are also a short distance option. The downside of those is you have to make sure that people are carrying them in their kit, or in their bag or in their purse or whatever the case may be. Having a post-it note pad and pencil and some tape can also be used to leave messages at the rally point if you had to leave and move to another area. Let's say one of your family members was injured. You went to the rally point, left a message for the family member that's missing and said, hey, we're taking the other member to the hospital. Wait here, we'll be back, or something like that. All right, then payphones, like I said, believe it or not, there are many payphones that still exist, but make sure that your teenagers actually know how to use them and how to make a collect call, because many don't. And a prepaid phone card could also be a good option as well. Okay, so the family communication data book. Basically, it's just an address book, but you want to add a lot more stuff than just addresses to it, as we'll talk about here in just a second. You want to have at least 3 pictures of each family member, a close-up, straight-on selfie, basically right of the face, a profile or side picture, of the person, and then a full full-length, wide-angle picture of them standing up. You want to print these pictures and put them in your book. And the reason you want to do that is because sometimes cell phones fail and cell phones die and stuff like that. And you might say, well, I have pictures on my cell phone. Well, if you can't charge your cell phone or something like that, it's good to have a picture to be able to show people and say, hey, have you seen this person? That kind of thing. Okay, you also want to make sure to add both spouses' cell phone numbers, work phone numbers, emails, driver's license numbers, social security numbers, work address, vehicle make, model, color, license plate, and license plate number, any scars, tattoos, known allergies, medical info, height and weight, etc. So you want to have all that identifying information for each person. You want to also have your parents' the adult's doctor's name, phone number, and office address. Same thing with the children as well, their pediatrician information. You also want to add all the children's info, their cell phone, email address, driver's license numbers if they're old enough, social security number, social media accounts. That's an important one. Social media is often a way that's used to find people, especially in runaway situations and stuff like that. If you've got all your friends, your kids' friends' social media accounts and their social media accounts, then it makes it easier to find people. Additional, as well as medical info, make, model, color, and all that kind of stuff, and of their license plate and their car and everything. All right, so you also want to have their children's school and the school phone number, physical address. Sometimes one parent always takes the kid to school and the other one never really goes there. They may forget exactly where it's located, that kind of thing, especially during stressful times. That can happen. If you can punch that address in and use the GPS or whatever to get you there, that's good. Or just do it the old-fashioned way, using a map. Okay, so like I said, I think I touched on this briefly. You want to have your children's friends' names, their friends' cell phone numbers, their friends' social media accounts, and their parents' contact info and home addresses. You want to also have some of your friends' cell phone numbers, email addresses, social media accounts, and home addresses. You want to have your extended family's cell phone numbers, email addresses, social media accounts, and home addresses. There's a repeating theme here. Basically, this is a book that you want to put all this information in, and you want to keep it. You want to keep it accessible because it's going to make it easier to get a hold of people and get in touch with people when people are separated and you need help and all those kinds of things. A good website to go to is ready.gov. They have a child ID kit, and that's a pretty good way to do it too. So check them out if you want. All right, so the contact schedule. So we talked a little bit about this, the 333 radio plan in the Communications 101 lesson. Common sense dictates, as to when you're going to need to use this in an immediate situation. But for times when you're separated for extended periods, or if you have limited battery life and you can't make contact, then you can revert to this 333 plan. And if everybody in the household knows about it, then that's going to make it even better. So the idea is, just a real quick recap, is that at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, 3 minutes before the top of the hour, 3 minutes after the hour, you get on to channel 3 on the GMRS or the CB radios, and you try to make contact. Again, you have to be carrying a radio if you do this, but this can also be used to establish when the person is at the rally point as well. If it's bad weather or something and the rally point doesn't have a way to get in and hide out of the weather, then just have them show up every 3 hours and then take shelter somewhere else. That may be a possibility. So you can modify this and use this at these rally points and stuff like that as well. If you are using a radio or a cell phone or a texting device, and obviously making the calls on the every 3 hours can be applied as well. It doesn't have to be just with the radio. It can be texting. It can be, email or whatever the case may be. But you want to make sure you got a good line of sight. You got a good cell signal, a good Wi-Fi signal, whatever the method of communication is. But the bottom line is, for immediate actions, you just go there and wait for a specified period of time. Then once that passes, then just try to do it every 3 hours. It's going to extend your battery life and all that. Okay, GPS tracking. So there are a couple apps that are pretty commonly used on cell phones, Life 360 and Find My Friends app. Those are all both very, very good apps. I've used them with my family members for quite a while, and they're pretty handy. You can also have satellite messengers and personal locator beacons in cars. Like for children, they're old enough to drive. You can have these OBD2 GPS vehicle trackers. Those are pretty cool. Some of these satellite messengers are really more intended for people that go out into the backwoods, go out into the wilderness and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the newer ones with the texting capability and stuff like that, although they're pretty expensive, they're pretty cool because if the cell phone network is down, then you can text messages and it goes through the satellites and you're still good. Now, the only time this isn't going to work is if the grid is down. Had a video talked about this on Reality Survival. If the grid goes down, these satellite messaging systems are not going to be functional. But anything aside from that, they're going to work pretty well. So there's just some different brands and stuff like that that are out there that you could potentially look at if you wanted to. All right, so here's a couple of links to some of the resources for putting together a family communication plan. Both of them are pretty good information, and I would suggest that you take a look at those. So that's pretty much what we've talked about. We'll wrap this up. We've talked about children memorizing critical data, talked about establishing a duress word. We've also talked about rally points and some communication alternatives. And then we take a look at establishing a family data book, and then the contact schedule and GPS tracking. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, or shoot me an email to AmericanPreppingAcademy@protonmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer it. Thanks so much for supporting me on Patreon. I hope that you're finding this information useful. Make sure that you download the lessons and print them out, put them in your Mercy binder or whatever you think is appropriate.